Hey, what's good, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider. Clint, what's up, my man? How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. How you doing today?
Good. My mic sounds like it's kind of loud, so I'm like trying to figure out like the sound right now. I'm trying to turn this down. Man, we got a big week. Alabama, Texas. A lot to dive into. We had Nick Saban's press conference just recently. Give me some takeaways. We'll put Nick Saban here on the screen. What were some takeaways? I kind of have some notes here. Cam Latu being ready for this game, I think is bigger than probably we think. Saban talked about, a couple different things. What were your big takeaways from this press conference?
Yeah, I think the whole Cameron Latu thing is certainly important, right? I think that when you go on the road like this, giving Bryce Young, another safety blanket, another weapon that he can throw to, a guy who's going to create mismatch problems for what we think is going to be an improved Texas defense, I think that's important. And then also, I don't know about you, but was he being serious with the whole not knowing that the horns down thing is
Probably, yeah, probably. Is that we'll play that clip. I don't know where it was. Okay, one.
I think it's the first question.
All right.
But from a health standpoint, we think he's, ready to go.
Stay on this side with Charlie.
After looking at the film, just what did you see from all four corners and what maybe more?
No, it wasn't that
Things to match up, who can do that consistency. So
I guess we
Go back to left with Nick.
Yeah, you talk about preparing for everything that's going to come on.
no.
I think it's the
we
first
use
question.
IVs.
Was it the first question back?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was right after his opening statement. Michael,
Coach, last week you mentioned that Cam Latu addressed that with the team going.
Okay, here we go. We got it. Jeez.
Clarified this offseason that the horns down hand gesture would be a penalty. Have you addressed that with the team going into this game?
What's that?
The horns down hand gesture could be a 15-yard penalty.
I have not addressed it with the team, but I appreciate you letting me know that. So, we got a lot of other things we need to really worry about. But I think that's a good thing for me to go over with the team, so I appreciate that.
Come out on the right with Chase.
What's your take there, Clint?
I
bet you he didn't know, honestly.
I honestly don't think he did. Like, some people on the message board brought up that they thought that he did know and that he was, kind of being sarcastic. To me, I don't think he knew. And I actually think, in the moment, I don't think he was in the best mood today, by the way. I just want to point that out, which, hey, it happens. I don't know if that's media related. I don't know if that's player related. We just gotten done with practice. But, he did bring up, the whole, he'd have to address it with the team. It kind of, to me, seemed like he was kind of not in the best of moods. But when Michael brought that up to him, he's like, that is something that we need to address. I don't know if you remember the whole Trent Richardson horns down thing in the national title game, but that was certainly a thing. And nowadays, if you do that in Texas, it can get you a penalty. So, that was my takeaway.
How soft is that?
It might be honestly, it might be one of the softest things that I'd see. Now, granted, if you ask somebody from Texas, they probably think,
No, but it's just, I bet you a majority of fans think it's soft. Like even Texas fans, like, you can't do that. It's like a thumbs down, basically, right? I think it's completely soft.
Well, yeah, and it's I guess because it's team specific. I don't know, but it's like you allow them to do the horns up, and that's no problem. But you don't allow the other team to do a horns. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't guess, but I do think that if the players didn't know that could be a penalty, let that happen during the game, and Nick Saban not know, and somebody's going to be in a lot of trouble. So I don't know who Michael saved. If he saved anybody, but he very well could have.
All right. This has been a hot topic, literally. People are talking about the humidity in Austin. Have you not lived in Tuscaloosa or anywhere in Alabama? The humidity is just unbelievable, and people are tripping out about it being 90. It's like 90 here when you wake up, when you go to sleep. That's like child's play. Here's Coach Saban talking about embracing the elements for Saturday's kickoff.
Hydrated. We give guys hydrated.
The players have mentioned, taking sodium shots. I guess, in what ways are you guys preparing for, cramping or just the elements of the weather for the game?
Well, we do just about everything we can. We give guys hydration tests and tell them on a daily basis, are they fully hydrated? Do they need to be hydrated? We use IVs for some guys who have, really bad problems in terms of how much they sweat. It's 90 degrees here every day, so we're managing this every day. It's not something that's new, for us to have to deal with. So, but I do think that part of preparation is what you do off the field, how you hydrate, how you eat, how you sleep, how you rest. All those things are really, really important when you're getting ready to play in difficult circumstances, difficult conditions, and the heat certainly creates a difficult circumstance, no doubt.
Coach Saban talking about the elements. Alabama, I think, 19.5-point favorite against Texas, Clint?
Yeah, I think it's moved. Last time I had seen it, it was at 20. But the thing about that whole heat comment, I mean, playing in Alabama back when I was in high school, my junior year, I didn't play in the fourth quarter of a single football game because I was cramping, or at least not until the weather started to cool down. And I remember that's right after Nick Saban first got to Alabama. My high school coaching staff was in contact with the Alabama coaches. And they, Jimmy Johns was going through something very similar. They couldn't figure out why he was continuing to deal with cramps. And so that's why the coaching staffs between my high school team and Alabama were in communication, because my coaches were wanting to know, hey, whatever you find out for him, let us know. And I was, my senior year, we avoided that problem because I got an IV at halftime of every game until it started to cool off. And, that's because it's hot in Alabama. It's humid in Alabama. And granted, I mean, I think I was a little bit of one of those special cases like he was talking about. I sweat differently than most people, but this is something that people in this state are dealing with all the time. And I don't know if just walk outside. I don't know why this question continues to be, brought up. It is going to be hot. And the fact that it's early, I think the early factor is more important than the heat factor, at least in my opinion, because Alabama is not really, they don't play a lot of their big games, at 11 a.m. If it's an 11 a.m. kickoff, they're a 45-point favorite. And Texas is over here playing Oklahoma in their biggest rivalry game of the year at that exact same time. So I think that really should be the focus, is just, getting your players up earlier in the morning.
Yeah.
And getting them focused and getting their minds right and getting them fed and, getting your meetings out the way. It's a completely different approach than doing it at 2:30 or doing it at 6 or 7 or 8 or whenever. So every day players and coaches have been asked about it, and I have been pretty surprised by that.
Here with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider. My name is Kyle Henderson. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We got 77 on. We should have 77 thumbs up coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. A couple days away from Alabama versus Texas. I actually want to talk to you guys real quick before we continue to dive into the show about something a little bit personal. So and it's important to me. So I currently am battling some depression. Okay. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm fighting through it. I'm digging deep. I wanted to cancel the show. I dug deep. And I think the message here is, number one, it's okay if you're going through tough times. And there's a lot of people that might be out there that are going through similar things, whatever it is. Dig through, fight through. You're not the only one going through tough times. And I think that's kind of part of life. So if you see the smile, you see the suit, you see all this stuff, like, look, it's tough sometimes for everybody out there. So if you're going through, if you had a bad day, if you're going through a tough time, our prayers are with you. We continue to push through. But I just, I wanted to gut this out. I want to fight. I want to continue to get better. And just wanted to share that with you guys. So hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys more than you know. Alabama versus Texas. There's a lot of things to look at tonight. Coach Saban was asked about, some of Texas's offensive weapons, what they have in the backfield. I think when I look to Texas, they have a lot of potency, right, within their skill position players. Let's play that clip and then kind of dive into Texas's offense. I know you've been talking a bunch about Texas, and we can dive into that. But let's play that clip right here from Coach Saban.
Last week, in terms of the way, they played, how they protected the quarterback, how they ran the ball effectively. So I think they're much improved and really a good, solid unit. Even though they've got two young guys, the young guys are really good players.
You've struggled a bit in the past guarding running backs that can catch the ball. How much improvement have you seen with the experienced linebackers you have at kind of improving their coverage skills and picking those up?
Can you be more specific? I mean, who do we have trouble guarding? in the past.
There's been a couple times with tight ends and
You said backs. That's
both of them as well.
okay. So tight ends too. Yeah. Well, it depends. The linebackers are not running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs, their number 5, is probably a little better athlete than some of our guys that are going to be covering them. So they got to do a great job in technique. We got to affect the quarterback so he doesn't have a lot of time to throw it. And so hopefully if we can make him protect sometimes, we don't have to cover him. But he is a good player, and I've said it many times, tight ends and running backs are, mismatched players because, linebackers are bigger, more physical guys, and they've got to be really good athletes to be able to play in space to cover them. I think our guys have improved, and I have confidence in our guys, but it'll be a challenge for them.
Clint, I think what Tony was probably asking, and I do like the question about the tight ends specifically, because number 0 for Texas, he's a monster. Kind of talk about, Texas' running game, and then also the tight end, because this guy could be a problem for not only, I'm sure Alabama's going to have something cooked up and they're going to be fine, but throughout the rest of Texas' season, you're talking about one of the best tight ends, in the conference for them.
Yeah, 100%. And, with Tony's question, there was James Cook, out of Georgia a couple of years ago. He went for over 100 yards, I think, on 4 catches.
Yeah.
You had, Isaiah Spiller and Devon Achane or Chan, or however you say it. They combined for close to 100 yards on like 8 catches last year at Texas A&M. You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire a couple of years ago in 2019, who went for, I want to say, close to like 9 catches, close to 80 yards and a touchdown. You had DeAndre Swift in 2018, who went for 65, 70 yards, 6 catches with a touchdown as well. So they have had problems at various points, covering the running backs out of the backfield, but it has to be a dynamic player, right? I mean, it's just not, hey, we can't cover anybody. It's, you got like a very, high profile player at that position. And, I think anybody's going to struggle to cover those types of players out of the backfield. That's why they're such effective players. But, the tight end position has been, the same thing. Kyle Pitts is the one that everybody talks about, but Jalen Watermeyer had a lot of success against Alabama in both games the last couple of years. You've had Kenny Yeboah go for close to 100 and, I don't remember, it was like 180 yards on like 7 catches for Ole Miss a couple of years ago. So, it's very difficult. And this is why Alabama getting Cameron Latu back on offense is such a big deal, because now they're providing that same mismatch problem that other teams are that have that dynamic tight end play. But as far as, Sanders is concerned, I think that when you look at his ability, he's like 6'4", like 242 pounds. You can move him around. He's very athletic. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, the number 12 overall player, the number 1 athlete. They didn't even know where he was going to play. And now he's playing tight end. He can move, he can run. And I think he provided a ton, as far as being a safety blanket for Quinn Ewers in week 1. And with Alabama's, struggles in the past, I mean, I think that it will be kind of a collective approach. I think it'll be some off-ball linebacker. I think you could see a lot of Deontay Lawson personally. I could be wrong on that, but he seems like a guy who can match, a lot of the size and a lot of the athleticism.
Yeah.
You are probably going to see some safety coverage, whether it be DeMarco Hellams or Jordan Battle. You're going to see probably quite a bit when he's lined up as a flex. As a big slot, you're probably going to see a lot of Brian Branch out there covering him. So I think it'll be a collective approach to try to slow this guy down, but they have other playmakers as well. Xavier Worthy is certainly, one of the most dynamic players at the wide receiver position in college football. And Bijan Robinson, his ability to run the football and catch the football out of the backfield, very difficult to slow those types of players down because there's not really a whole lot of weaknesses to his game. So, I think the main advantage for Alabama going in is their experience up front defensively going against that inexperienced, for the most part, Texas offensive line. And I think they got to be able to take advantage of that, because if they can't pressure Quinn Ewers, I think Texas has the weapons where they can exploit that.
Here with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider. Clinton, go ahead and thank our super chat poster up here.
Merton Murphy. I'm having a hard time reading. I got it.
Let's go
Muffley. I can't tell if that's an R or an F. I have it really small on my screen.
I like the avatar. He's like on the phone, kind of.
Yeah,
he's certainly dialed in, right?
Hey, we'll call him M squared. I love it though. We certainly appreciate it. And
yeah,
Kyle,
no.
By the way, going back to what you were saying earlier, I just want to say, I saw you before we hopped on here, and you straight up warrior, man. You buried it. You said, "Hey, it's not about me right now. It's about the people who are on the show." And I for one certainly appreciate it because we love having you here, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I think it's kind of, you get dialed in, and I think like coming on the show, I honestly, I look forward to it. Come on Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, and these are my people. I mean, a lot of the subscribers have been here since the show began, and we're talking like, if you want to see something funny, go back. Chris was doing it earlier. Look up Kyle Henderson call-in show from like 4 years ago, before everyone had all these shows, and look at the technology and look at the look at the lighting. I had like the camera down here, and the lighting was bad, but the audio was always good. The audio was always solid.
Gotta be good.
Anyways, now we're up in the Beard Gang. So coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Clint, I have some prize picks questions for you. These are more or less for this weekend's game. I'm going to ask you more or less on these next couple graphics. You simply tell me more or less. Prize Picks is one of our sponsors, and it's easy. You go to prizepicks.com and you simply play more or less. It's easy. It's daily fantasy. So check it out, Prize Picks. So going into this game, Bryce Young, they have him listed for 327 yards. Are we going more or less for Bryce Young in terms of yards against Texas? More or less 327 yards.
That's tough. I still think they're searching for that vertical threat, right? And I do want to bring this up, by the way. Tyler Harrell was in a walking boot last week and didn't participate in the game. And, I thought it was interesting that earlier today on the SEC coaches teleconference, he brought up Isaiah Bond. He had mentioned Kobe Prentice. He mentioned Jermaine Burton. We certainly knew those were two guys he was going to talk about specifically. But then he also brought up Isaiah Bond and thought that he played well. And, coming out of high school, prior to Tyler Harrell committing to Alabama and choosing to transfer from Louisville, I thought that he was a sneaky good, sleeper pick to contributing year one, because I thought he brought that same kind of vertical element that Tyler Harrell would have. And, I thought that was something after losing Jamison Williams that Alabama would be, somewhat lacking a little bit. And then, of course, when Harrell committed, I was like, okay, I'm going to back off that prediction. But who knows? With, Kobe Prentice has taken full advantage of JoJo Earl being out as far as being Alabama's slot receiver. I'm going
to say over.
Are you going to go ahead and cut in with over?
I'm going to go more for Bryce Young. I think that he lights up Texas. I think that they'll go in, they'll do a hard flex. I think you're going to see big numbers. And I think it's almost kind of like, because Nick Saban will flex in this game. There's a lot of games that he won't flex. I mean, you look to a game like Utah State. I don't know if you guys know this. It's our job to tell you this, but William Anderson, I think, only played in 20 snaps against Utah State. Yeah. This next game against Texas will be a flex, because I'm telling you, Coach Saban will use this game as a platform to showcase this Alabama team to everybody on a national spotlight, but also for the people in Texas that think that they might have something special. Coach Saban will go in there and be like, look, I'm still daddy. Still daddy in the Lone Star State. So I'm going more. What are you going with, Clint?
The reason I was saying all that about the receivers is that those big plays, Jamison Williams will hit you with an 80-yard touchdown, and there goes your number right there pretty much. I don't know if Alabama's found that vertical element yet. And with the run game, being a huge focus, I could actually see this going under, not by a ton. I think it's going to be more than 195 yards, like against Utah State, certainly. But I mean, I could see anywhere, north of, around 275, 280, 290, somewhere around there. I'll say under, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if we hop on here next week and I'm like, yeah, that was a dumb pick. You went for, 390.
Oh, I think he's going for $4 bills. I mean, it's crazy. Like, Bryce just balls out. Okay. More or less yards for Jermaine Burton. It's slotted at 72. Since I went with more for Bryce throwing for 327, I'm definitely going more with Burton. So the stats on the left, those are his last game. So let me see if I can bring them up above that banner. So his average, that's what makes it complicated. But look, he's only played in one game with Alabama and one game with Bryce Young. So don't pay attention to that graph. Just pay attention to the fact that Bryce Young is slated to throw for 327 and Jermaine Burton did he have the most targets, or was it Holden?
Yeah. It was him with 9. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So if he has 9 targets, let's say he has 13 against Texas. I mean, he's certainly going to go for, a $1.20, $1.25. What do you think? More or less 72. Sign off in the comment box.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think this one's going over. I think after last week, the red zone usage was nice, but they want to get this guy some yardages and some catches. Yeah. And so I think that, the targets were certainly there last week. Got to convert on a few more of them, and he's certainly going to have a better yards per catch average. So I certainly think, and I mean, all it takes was him and Bryce completing that one deep pass that was pretty close, and, he would have hit it last week. So, yeah, I certainly think that 72.5 is a little low.
Okay, here we go. How about Quinn Ewers? He is, look at this, only 205. These guys love Alabama's defense. I do too. I think you look at probably the pass rush and the fact that Alabama has, but the thing is, people are questioning Alabama's corners, but you can't question the safeties. But I think a lot of this has to do with the pass rush. What about you? I'm gonna go probably more here because I think Alabama's gonna be up, so he's gonna have to pass more. What's your take, Clint?
100% agree, man. Yeah, you're spot on. I think he has. I think Alabama's going to score a lot of points, and I think that, whether it be passes out to the running back, whether it be Sanders, he'll utilize some of those guys. But, he's throwing it 40, 45 times in this game because I don't think that, Texas is going to try to establish the run. I just don't think that they'll have a ton of success. But, Bijan's going to get his. Don't get me wrong. But I think that it's going to have to fall on the shoulders of Quinn Ewers, and I think that just through sheer volume, 205, that's relatively easy. I don't think you'll have a great yards per attempt average or anything, but I would definitely go over.
Okay. How about this one? This one's fun. Okay. Bijan Robinson, only 68 yards. Doesn't this seem like easy money? Like if you're going to say more or less on a daily fantasy, you're going to say more yards. Look at the right. 71 light work, Kansas light work. Iowa State, I figured that is 90 yards. Baylor light. That's kind of surprising. 135 against Oklahoma State. I don't know. You got to think over.
I don't know, man. And so that's the problem is I think Jaheim Otis could have a much bigger impact in this football game, simply because I think that, Texas is going to try to establish the run, and he's got some twitch and he can provide some pass rush ability, but his run stopping and just being, immovable in the run game, I think that's his biggest asset. And, so I could, and don't get me wrong, it's not just him. DJ Dell's a better run defender than pass rusher. Justin Aboigbe, Byron Young, all these guys are great run defenders. And Alabama had the number 5, I think, run defense last year. And Texas's offensive line's so young, man. So it's tough because I want to go, with the over because of the talent. But I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he went under. that's tough to say, and I'm probably going to look like an idiot. But I'm gonna go ahead and say under.
Okay. How about this one? We got 2 more to go. Okay, we got. Sorry that it comes in like that. There we go.
Oh man.
Jahmyr
Gibbs, harder.
97.5. Last week he had 93. And what the crazy thing is, last week Prize Picks had it at 93.5. Literally,
wow.
Like it was spot on. So you're looking at 97 here. You know what? I'm gonna say less here because I'm starting to kind of get the vibe that Alabama is really liking Jace McClellan. Like really liking him.
I think so too, man. And I think Gibbs is going to have more success, running the football than he did last week. Really, if you look, and that's just the style of running back he is. He'll average, he'll have a 3-yard carry, a 4-yard carry, and then all of a sudden he's popping for a 58-yarder. And now we're talking about him averaging, 10 yards per, rush on 9 attempts when pretty much 60 of it came on 1. I think they like that committee approach, and I think that he gets more usage in the passing game. By the way, I certainly think that he goes well over 100 total yards. I could see him being in the high 60s, low 70s, mid 70s as far as rushing yards. Maybe putting up 50 receiving on 4 or 5 catches. I could certainly see that being a possibility. But rushing yards, seeing him get his first 100-yard game just based off game script. If Alabama gets up and they start running the football, I guess that's possible. But I think by that point, you'll still see a lot of Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams. So I'll go under, not feeling great about it, but,
All right. Okay. This is our last one that we're going to go to. Okay. So we got Trayshawn Holden, 55 yards. That seems like easy money for more, right? Way more. This is the easiest one, in my opinion.
I think that if you're going over the 327 with Bryce Young, I think all of these receiver overs you got to go with. And I think that, to me, that I feel pretty good about this one too. I mean, 56 yards is all it takes. I mean, he could get that on 3 or 4 catches.
Yeah,
And
I
if
think so. Yeah, this one's easy.
I would go ahead and take the over here as well.
Okay. All right. So sound off in the comment box. You know what? How about you guys post your score predictions, and we'll start posting some score predictions inside the comment box. Kyle Henderson, along with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider, coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I want to talk about the impact of Cam Latu. Cam Latu last year caught for 8 touchdown passes. I think that was a record by any of the Alabama tight ends. And, you know, it's not like this is, you can say a lot of positions are like wide receiver U, running back U. You can't really say about tight end U, can you? I mean, you had Irv Smith, you have OJ Howard, right? But you like, it's not like first round type guys. Now, I'm not saying that even Cam Latu, and no disrespect to his playing style, because when he first got here, it was amazing to see his transformation because he came here as an outside linebacker. And that was around, I think, the second year that I had been here, whatever. But he was with the outside linebackers. They've made him now a tight end, and he's been a more than serviceable tight end, catching 8 touchdowns last season. Dealt with the nagging injury. He's back. What do you think about Cam Latu and how he fits into this offense?
I think it's so crucial. You know, Nick Saban's talked about how difficult it is covering tight ends, and he's also talked about how difficult it is for other teams to cover tight ends. And you saw that a little bit last year. And don't get me wrong, I think fans, they kind of like with Slade Bolden, they remember the big plays, you know, like when Slade fumbled the football and, you know, in a pretty crucial moment, or dropped the football. People remember those things, and they end up not liking him. And Cameron Latu, you know, doing what he did near the goal line against Georgia, that's certainly going to stand out to a lot of people. But this guy's a dynamic playmaker because he's able to create after the catch. That's such an important factor for a tight end. You've got guys who, hey, you know, when I throw him the football, if it's anywhere in his vicinity, he's going to catch it, but he's down right there. You know, he's not going to create after the catch. Cameron Latu, he's a guy who can run. He's great at, you know, making guys miss for being a big body, 6'5", 244-pound tight end. He can run through some guys. He's just able to create yardage after the catch. That's such a huge element, and such, you know, because he acts as a safety blanket as well, and you can move guys around. I mean, Robbie Utes last week, they were moving him around and flexing him out and not really using him too much in line. And I thought that was a little bit surprising because I didn't really think that was his skill set. I just think that they did that because that's the offense, and they just kind of were like, this is what we're going to do. But Latu can do all that. He can play as a perimeter receiver. He can play as a big slot, you know, as a tight end in line. You can use him as kind of a move tight end, H-back kind of thing. So I think that just adding that element and that flexibility to your offense is certainly going to make Bryce Young more, you know, dynamic and give him another option. And it's just somebody else that you're going to have to figure out, okay, how are we going to cover this guy? And Texas does, you know, DeMarvion Overshone, the linebacker, 6'4", about 220 pounds, extremely athletic, converted safety. I think he still needs to improve as far as his run support, but as far as coverage and stuff, I think he's the perfect kind of player to guard or cover a guy like Cameron Latu. So Texas in particular might have a pretty good player for that. Not everybody's going to, you know, have that style of player who can match both the size and the athleticism. So certainly going to be an interesting addition to Alabama's, what we think is already a very improved Alabama offense.
Okay, my next dynamic duo that I want to talk about. Now, we don't have William and Dallas Turner posted here, but you've been talking about Chris Braswell. He was on your top 5 players to watch. You have William Anderson on the left of your screen. These two, along with Dallas Turner, it's a trifecta of incredible talent. Let's specifically talk about Chris Braswell and how you think that he could be potentially utilized in a game like this. What did you like about him last game? Kind of go from there.
Really, what I found very interesting from Utah State is going back and watching it. I didn't realize just how much he was used inside. You know, they didn't use that package that we have heard about, which was, you know, getting all 3 players on the field at the exact same time. And you got Will Anderson and Dallas Turner on the edges. And you got a guy like Chris Braswell, who, you know, pound for pound is one of the most, or one of the strongest players on Alabama's roster, if not the strongest pound for pound. You know, he's been playing inside in those packages. They didn't have all 3 of them on the field, but they did have some where they moved, you know, Chris Braswell over and allowed him to play inside next to Dallas Turner on the same side. And then they had like a Justin Naboy be playing out there on the edge on the other side. And so I think that was a very sneaky way for them to go ahead and be getting him some inside reps and seeing how he's developing there without revealing that package. And against a team like Texas, that would be the perfect time to utilize it. But this guy can do everything that you would look for. He's got plenty of, explosiveness off the football. He's certainly a strong guy. He can convert speed to power, which Nick Saban's talked about. And so I think that, I mean, to me, he's not as important necessarily as a, Will Anderson or a Dallas Turner, but he's a very important part about what Alabama's going to want to do against some of these high octane offenses throwing the football.
Here with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider.com. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys more than you know. Alabama set to take on Texas this week. Bryce Young having a lot of fun out there, accounted for 6 total touchdowns against Utah State. It was an amazing performance and the most yards that we've seen from Bryce Young running, right? He was basically jogging out there. Last year, he didn't have to run. He doesn't have to run this year. Clearly, we know that he's capable of running. They don't want him to run. But I think this year, if Alabama really needs to turn it up, and where we saw him turn it up was against Georgia, because previous to this last game against Utah State, Bryce had a ton of rushing yards. His ability to be a dual threat, we know that, but his ability, most importantly, to have success with the RPO, read the middle of the field, short crossing routes to Trayshawn Holden, Jermaine Burton for that first touchdown. Talking about Bryce Young and how important his overall playmaking ability is, not only for this next game, but for overall. And I mean, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner back at it again, doing incredible work in week 1.
Well, I think, first of all, when you talk about his dual threat ability and running the football, I thought it was so important for him to go ahead and do that in week 1, because what he's done is he's put that on tape for opposing defenses and let them know, hey, this is going to be something that you're going to have to respect. And I think that, for the most part, teams already did, but just with the fact that he never really utilized it, I think only so much preparation went into it. But, he let them know, hey, this is an element that I can bring if you give me the opportunities. And from moving forward, I mean, if you think about it, last year compared to this year, going into this year, all these teams had 15 games worth of Bryce Young to know what he does well, what he doesn't do well. And they've kind of found ways to be able to maybe try to slow him down. And so him adding a new wrinkle, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily new because it's something that he's always been able to do, but him showing a willingness to do it and putting that on tape, that's, the new wrinkle that now defenses are like, we thought we had this guy figured out, and here's something new, here's something else that we have to account for. And I just think that that's going to make him all the more dynamic. I was extremely impressed. I don't think, it was his best day throwing the football. I still think he's building some chemistry with some of these guys. And I do think that's also a reason why he kind of ran some more, is because, last year he had such trust in John Mechie and Jamison Williams. When things broke down and he was escaping the pocket, he was keeping his eyes downfield and he was wanting to throw it. This year, there's still some chemistry getting built, and that's totally fine. It's the first game of the season. And so, when those opportunities presented themselves, he's like, hey, I'll put it on my own back and go ahead and pick up some yards. And I think that maybe that'll slow down a little bit. I don't necessarily think that was Utah State specific, but, I do think that regardless of if he continues to use it to that degree, just putting it on tape was super important.
We're looking at Pro Football Focus right now, outside left between the numbers to the outside right. The top part of this graph, 20 yards downfield, he was 0 for 1 on the far left. And then when you see 10 plus, he was 1 for 3, 5 of 6 across the middle of the field, and then 0 for 4, 10 yards and above to the outside right. What we're seeing right here is, if you just pinpoint the middle of the screen, right, 11 for 12. And that's that RPO and how effective it can be for Alabama. Really, if you add it down to the bottom, right? I mean, 3 for 4 with some short little passes. I mean, kind of getting back to my point, I mean, it's really interesting to kind of look at the numbers and see how successful he is across the middle of the field. Even Coach Saban talked about after the game, during his coach watch, about how hard it is to stop when you have an effective quarterback. I'm looking for another. Check this out. This shows, can you guys see that?
Yep.
A little bit. So it says kept clean, under pressure, not blitzed. And you see his Pro Football Focus grades to the right. Clint, what do these numbers mean to you?
Yeah, I think, when blitzed, you don't want to blitz the guy, right? But at the same time, I mean, from those numbers, you also don't want to blitz him. But last year, when you look as a whole, when he was not necessarily when he was under pressure, when teams tried to send extra pressure and blitz him, he was typically pretty good. And, I think that some quarterbacks thrive in chaos. Joe Burrow was very good at that. I think Bryce Young can win from the pocket, but I also think that, a lot of his wow plays. I mean, what happened? I thought he made one of the most incredible throws, coming back around and being able to deliver that football over the middle of the field to Trayshawn Holden after rolling out to his left. And just an incredible throw, by the way. I don't think people fully realize my mind was blown. But those are the types of things that Bryce Young brings to the table. And that's why in a lot of ways, guys like Russell Wilson, he's most comfortable outside the pocket. You get him on the move, and that's where he really thrives. Bryce Young can win from within the pocket, and I think that's what makes him special and more of a complete quarterback. But I also think he's most comfortable when things kind of break down around him. So with Alabama having an improved offensive line, I think that helps him in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously you don't want him under pressure, but it also, he won't have to escape the pocket and do a lot. So I will be, curious to see how much he's able to stay in the pocket this year compared to last year.
All right. Last thing that we're going to hit on is talking about the backup quarterback play. Saw Jalen Milroe get in there. Saw Ty Simpson have just a couple opportunities. What was your takeaway from watching Jalen Milroe? I felt that, we've seen this before with some of these younger quarterbacks that get thrown into a game. They're clearly prepared. They've worked with the first team offense, second team, whatever. But I think he played tight, and we've seen that before in the past. And for those out there that watch Milroe and are hypercritical of maybe some of his passes or whatever, there was a time. And I wish I had all the comments when Mac Jones came in during a similar situation, and people were like, "Oh my goodness!" Like after Tua, we're done. Like it's like the quarterback drop off is going to happen, and then Mac Jones rolls off this incredible season, super efficient. Look, I'm not comparing Mac Jones to Jalen Milroe, completely different players, but I do believe in Milroe. I just think he played tight. What was your assessment of Jalen Milroe against Utah State?
First of all, at the time that he threw that deep ball, if you would have paused it, I would have put every penny that I'm going to make between now and the end of the year on that being a touchdown, and I would have lost every bit of it because the way that guy was wide open, I thought there's no way this is not a touchdown. Don't get me wrong, fantastic play by the defensive back, covered a lot of ground, very rangy type of play. A lot of people will look at more the negative and say, "Hey, he severely underthrew it," which he did. But, it was also a great play by the defensive back. Otherwise, it's just an underthrown football that's an incomplete pass. So give the defensive back a lot of credit for making a play there. But, he underthrew it. And I do think you're right. I think he played a little bit tight. He'd been all this hype, it surrounded him all offseason. People also need to remember, though, this guy was asked back in the spring and into the summer and into fall camp, we know you can run. Show us that you can win from within the pocket. That's what we need. That's the growth that you need to make. Did you see him run a lot on Saturday? Because I didn't. No. He did it a couple of times, but it was more so him trying to win from within the pocket. And I think when you're thinking about that aspect of it and you're not used to that, you're used to kind of letting just your instincts take over and you get outside the pocket and you make plays and you just do what you do. You're trying to learn to win from within the pocket. It can be, an added element of something that's in your mind, in the back of your mind. Got to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So I think that as he continues to get more comfortable with that, you'll see him cut loose a little bit and he'll get more in his game and get more comfortable. I wasn't concerned with his play at all. I don't think it was a great throw. It's definitely one that you would want back, but we know he's got the arm strength. We know he's got the rushing element. He's going to be just fine.
What about Ty Simpson quickly? I mean, it wasn't a large sample size, but I like what I saw from Ty Simpson a couple times during the scrimmages, the spring game. I mean, he has an incredible amount of athleticism.
Yeah, he brings the athletic, the mobility factor as well. And I think that will serve him, well in the future. Just a guy that needs to get more comfortable within the offense. You kind of see, baby steps. But, towards the end of games, what are you really seeing? So it's kind of hard to get an accurate representation of where he's at. But, I think that, them allowing him to get in there at the end of games, kind of like Jalen Milroe last year, I think it's only going to benefit him moving forward. It's just, I didn't really come away with anything from the game. But you're certainly right in the scrimmage and in the A-Day game and stuff. I thought that he showed, some command of the offense. And when he's comfortable and confident in what he's doing, you can see the playmaking shine through. It's just he's got to continue to be able to do that regardless of what's being asked of him.
All right, we're gonna end the show. No calls tonight. It was just Clint and I rapping, so we appreciate you guys' support. We're gonna end the show on this photo though. Give a little love to Trey Sanders, right? Doing the Najee hurdle. So good to see him in. I mean, the story around Trey Sanders is so remarkable, considering that he was in, he almost lost his life in a car accident, comes back, look what he's doing on the field. I think a lot of it is a testament to his ability to, grind out that process. He could have just turned around. He could have ran off, kind of what we were alluding to earlier in the show, right? Is like, you got to dig it out. You got to fight. You got to keep moving on. And Trey Sanders could have just packed up and left, but this strength and conditioning program got him back to where he needs to be. Good to see Trey Sanders in action. Clint?
100%, man. What a way to end the night right there. That's what you call powering through, overcoming adversity. That was very cool to see. And hey, he's still got a little bounce, man. I understand the wreck. Some people think that it zapped all of his athleticism. I think that was a nice little statement to everybody out there that he's still got a little bit in the tank.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. He's Clint Lamb. I'm Kyle Henderson. We'll take your calls during the post-game show, which will be on Saturday following Alabama and Texas. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Texas Boy, thank you for joining us today inside the comment box. Before you leave, Texas Boy, let people know in Austin where to eat. I'm sure there's tons of barbecue places that definitely Alabama fans would love to hit up. And if there's a place to hear a band, because Alabama's band won't be making it. Anyways, coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Have a beautiful night. And remember, stay mentally healthy. It's okay to not be okay. You're going to be okay. We got you, fam. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com, saying good night.